Rest a graph by plotting points. So what you should do is you should make an x and a y table over here off to the side. You can plug in whatever number you want for x. I'm going to choose 0. Okay? You could plug in 1, you could plug in 5, you could plug in a billion. Because if you solve the equation after plugging in that number, what you get is the corresponding y value. That's a point on your graph. So I plugged in x equals 0. I got out y equals -1. If I plug in like x equals -1 in here, then I got y equals 3 times -1 minus 1. So that's -3 minus 1. That's going to make -4. If I plug in +1 in for x, 3 minus 1 makes 2 here. So those are dots on our graph. 0, comma, -1. -1, comma, -4. 1, comma, 2. See how they're making a straight line together? If I was a good drawer. Okay, so you can do the same thing even if it looks different. And this actually works in math with any type of crazy function. If you got two variables, you can plot it by plugging in a number for x and seeing what it spits out for y. So if you plug in a 0 here, 2 times 0 makes 0. So we get y equals -3. Let's say we plug in 1 in for x. 2 times 1 plus y equals -3. That's going to give me 2 plus y equals -3. And just make sure to write out all the steps if you're having trouble. Subtract 2 from both sides. So you're going to get y is -5. And really all you need is 2 points if it's a straight line graph. If it was a more complicated graph, like if it had like x squared or something like that, we need more points. But 1 comma -5. So if we used a ruler and made a straight line through those 2 points, that would get us where we're going. That would get the equation of the graph. So let's do one more here. This one, this has a negative sign. Let's do this too. So I'm going to plug in a 1 in for x. So that gives me y equals -1 minus 3. So it gives me -4 for a y coordinate. And then if I wanted to plug in maybe 0, 0 is one I always like to plug in. It just seems to make everything simpler because -0, we can simplify that by just saying 0, right? So y equals, if I plug in 0 for x, 0 minus 3, y equals -3. And so now we can make a quick sketch. If you're doing homework, it's perfectly fine if you just have graph paper and make a quick sketch like I'm doing. Sorry, you don't have to have graph paper is what I was trying to say. If you just have regular paper, like plain white paper, just make a quick sketch like I'm doing on the screen here. Plug in a 0 for x. This one's a little more complicated. That's a -6y equals 3. So that's going to give me -1/2 if I try to solve that. So I'm actually going to scrap this one. Let's try doing something else. Maybe if we plug in like a multiple of 3. Then we're going to have 3 minus 6y equals 3. I can subtract 3 from both sides. Don't drop the negative sign. That's -6y equals 0. So in other words, y is going to equal 0 here. So since you have control over what you plug in for x, try to plug in something that helps you avoid fractions. So actually multiples of 6's are good, right? No, that's not true either. It's take 3 and like add 6 to it or subtract 6 to it. Like if I plug in -3, and you'll just get it by plugging in some numbers and trying it out. I got to add 3 to both sides to get y by itself. I got -6y equals 6. In other words, y equals -1. So there's 2 points I could use to graph.